In this video, we are building an outdoor coffee table that lights up with LED lights out of the African wood Padauk. Padauk is kind of an oily wood and a little bit splintery. It's very rot resistant. And side note, you don't want to breathe the dust in. According to Google, it can cause some pretty serious health issues. The real reason we're using it is obviously because we think it looks pretty cool. It is a little bit more expensive. It was about 13 bucks a board foot, and to give some perspective, I think oak was around 8 bucks a board foot. And in case you were wondering, we did not Photoshop that photo that got you to click on this video, so stay tuned to the end to see what it looks like glowing at night. We are doing a 1 3/4 thick concrete top on here, and if you do the math on how much that's going to weigh, it's going to be around 350 pounds. So you can see we've glued the wood together. Now when we were doing this, we found out the hard way that Padauk is a little bit oily, and because of that, the glue needs more time to set up. So normally if we were gluing up some oak or something like that, we might be able to pull the clamps off in 30 minutes to an hour. But when we were doing that with the Padauk, it was coming apart, so we actually clamped everything overnight. I set up a jig to get all these cut to exactly the same size, and it probably saved me an hour of work at least. I think there were around 200 vertical slats. Doing it over again, I would have had the corners built first and set so we could work off them, but we had to make do. So with a little bit of measurement, we set the verticals that go right next to the corners and we worked off them. We used a thin piece of 1/4 inch oak here as our jig, and that allowed us to work through this really fast. And we skipped any difficult measurements and math, and when we got down to the end, we would just eyeball it in and get them real close. So here it is without the corner pieces on. You can see we're a little bit out of order here, but here we are gluing up the corner pieces. All we did was miter 2 slats and then glue them up. Now, if I had had larger lumber available, I probably would have preferred to just take a larger piece of lumber and table saw the corner of it out, and then I could have skipped the whole glue up and it would have been even more perfect. But they did turn out pretty good. After that was all done, there was a little bit of variation, and since the slab was so heavy, we don't want it resting on these little vertical slats that are just glued and pin nailed on. So we took the round over bit and we cut them all perfectly flush. And when we did this, it wasn't too bad, but there was some tear out. So we went through with the sandpaper and we just sanded that little bit of tear out. We're gonna glue and screw this inset base on, and the reason we're putting this here is because we felt like the design was just a little bit too basic without some more detail in it. This red oak filler ended up being a massive mistake. I thought, looking at the color of it wet, that it was a good match, but it dried much lighter. Lesson learned. Now, I'd heard of linseed oil being a good outdoor finish before, and I honestly am not sure if I believe it, but it's really cheap and I like the way it looks. It actually adds a little bit of color. It made this Padauk turn almost a purple color, which I absolutely love, but we'll see how it wears. Now, to be fair, it's not going to get the full treatment it would if it were in Michigan or somewhere that gets snow and rain all year. California is pretty nice to outdoor stuff. To apply it, you just put it on nice and thick, and then you allow it to sit for about half an hour and wipe it off. To form the pour-up, we used melamine board, and we reinforced the edges with 3/4 inch plywood. Just used a little bit of CA glue and popped them together. I think in hindsight it would have been easier to use a 3/4 inch thick melamine board and just screw it together with no reinforcement. For this pour, we are using a high-strength mix Quickcrete, and it seemed like the right move at the time, but in hindsight, I would have gotten the countertop mix. From my construction experience, I'm well aware that the looser the concrete, the weaker it is, so we wanted to keep it as stiff as we could, but it became clear really quickly that this is not going to flow out and we're going to have big air pockets. So we're like, okay, that's the bottom. We're not going to worry about it. So you can see we loosened up this top layer of concrete like crazy. The bottom was super hard. This top stuff is pretty sloppy. We don't have a concrete vibrator, and we were not about to buy one just for this little pour. So we used a palm sander, and we use it on the edges to kind of shake and vibrate them, and it did work to some degree. You can't see it in the video here, but the bubbles were coming up. We also used a mallet and really tapped on it. As you can see at the end, the concrete was way too loose and making a horrendous mess, and definitely weakening the slab. And yeah, look at those beautiful edges. So we then made an attempt to skim coat it and fix all the holes in it, and it failed miserably. And if you notice over there behind us, this is actually the second slab. So we actually ended up pouring a third slab, and here we are grinding and polishing it. We use these little discs off Amazon. We'll drop a link down below, and we polish it up to about 200 grit. And while it's not perfect, this one was passable. We were not going to pour a fourth slab. I just used a basic low luster concrete sealer from Home Depot, and overall I was quite pleased with it. It dries pretty fast, and it's quite friendly to apply. Here it is finished. I ended up putting 2 coats on it total. I used these LED lighting strips to provide the back and under lighting on the table. They're super easy to use. You just peel the tape and stick them on. You do have to plan your links out ahead of time when you're buying it though, because as far as I know, you can't really splice them together. And ideally, we would have an outlet to plug these two under the table. I hate that cord coming out of there, but we're probably not going to keep it, so we're not going to cut this slab to put an outlet underneath. Here's our final product, but stay tuned just one more minute to see what it looks like glowing at night. That is the coolest part about it. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you want this table, it is for sale, local pickup only in Southern California. Check out the link in the comments and let us know how we could have gotten that slab to turn out better.